Hello, good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to day 28 of the Woman Called You Do over January. And today, for day 28, we are going straight into the part two of what we started yesterday, attaining clarity, what to look forward to. We talked about four things you can actually look forward to when you just really, really decide to embrace mental clarity. But before I go ahead, like I always do, a quick, recap of what the Woman Called You is all about. Like I always say, we're just simply a platform of women who are committed, sold out to inspiring change, but through personal growth. Like I'm, in fact, I'm sure I'm beginning to sound like a broken record when I say you can't give what you don't have. So essentially, before you say you can, like, I mean, remember when you even get into a plane, they tell you before you can put on the life jacket for someone else to assist, you have to put on your own life jacket first. So that's what the Woman Called You is essentially. And bit by bit, we've been doing it, and I believe that every woman just practically gleans whatever is hers to glean whenever she joins any of our programs, any of our workshops, etc. So, like I said, today we're going into the part two of what um, I started yesterday, and that's attaining clarity, what to look forward to. Like I remember saying yesterday, and I was very plain about it. I said the journey to clarity, it just doesn't take just 31 days, but what we plan to do in this 31 days, or we've started doing, today is day 28, and we just have barely 72 hours to wrap it up till some other time, you know, is you just taking on board the techniques that I've discussed here, the tools, I mean, your brain dump, your solution solving technique, that's a solution numbering technique, you know, knowing what it is to be mentally strong as against being mentally weak. So many things I've talked about. I've talked about the whole, you know, spectrum of self-care. We've discussed spiritual self-care, mental self-care. We've discussed physical self-care, social self-care, yes, and I think it was seven, yes. So if you want to know more about it, you can always scoot over to previous episodes. They're all there on the Woman Called You platform, as well as on my news feed. That's Onene Scott-Ananaba, as well on the YouTube channel. Just usually what you just type the Woman Called You and you'll see the videos come up. So like I've been saying since we started, mental clarity is not magic. It's you deliberately, intentionally, and just choosing to build capacity. And yes, when you think you've begun to like kind of get to that point when you can say, okay, my mental space is decluttered. Okay, I think or I feel or I want to just imagine that I'm getting to the place of mental clarity. Life usually would happen. When I say life usually would happen, it's not as if it's a tragedy, but you'll be faced with things that will definitely just shake you. Not necessarily shake you, but like will get you thinking, I thought I had mental clarity. Why am I so confused about what's happening? It can be uncertainty, it can be doubt. I mean, just think about anything that can go wrong. It can go wrong. But remember when we started talking yesterday, we said, see, it's not as if things will not go wrong, but when they do, because you have come to the point where you know who you are wholesome, you know your fears, what they are, you've been able to like, confront them. It gets much more easier to do life. It gets much more easier, to look your issues in the face and say, look, I'm stronger than whatever it is that I'm facing. And when I talked about our reason for being, when I asked us that question, are you ready to jump? When I took us a couple of days on confronting yourself, and I asked us, I listed some questions, really, really tough questions, and I said, if you're brave enough to answer these questions, you know, as honestly as you possibly can, nobody's going to score you. I'm not going to ask for proof of whether you did it or not, but you will give yourself the balance score sheet, balance score card of what you have written. So if you think it's not good enough, only you can take responsibility and take the decision to begin to unlearn those things that have made your answers so terrible that you can't even look at them. Then you begin to reconstruct. So the things I mentioned yesterday, the first four things, are the first four things. There are a lot of them, but I can't say everything. I'll just say what pertains to what we are discussing. And remember, it's mental clarity. It's not about physical clarity. It's not about physiological clarity. It's mental clarity. So I'm trying to streamline, because we can't do everything. So today I'll be quickly running to three other things that will happen to you that you should be excited to look forward to when you begin to gain mental clarity. The first of those three are, ta-da, you'll be more intuitive. Man, I believe nothing beats the intuition of a woman. But imagine if that native intelligence, as they call it, you you have a hefty dose of power knowledge. I tell you, you can't make light the importance of a woman being quick-witted, and that's the truth. And if you truly want to say you have gained mental clarity, like I said, you need to cross all your T's, dot all your I's. Your intuitive level, it will be top notch. You know why? Because now that you'll be much more intuitive, you won't be making, decisions. Excuse me, I have sorry about that. You won't be making decisions based on your feelings. And that's the truth. Because most of us as women, we mistake intuition, or rather we mistake feelings for intuition. We mistake emotional thoughts, this kind of thoughts that run through our minds as intuition. No. So usually that thing that we call female intuition, yes, it's there. But for it to, operate at that level where you're able to separate, I call it separating church and state. Look, you're able to put your emotions aside and say, see, I will look at this thing logically and rationally. You need to be mentally alert. You need to have mental strength. I've been overflogging this issue of mental strength for the last, I think, 2 weeks or thereabouts. So when you become much more intuitive, you will not be led by your feelings. You will not be led by your emotions. This time, you know what happens? Your brain, a woman's brain, her mind will begin to lead her life. And I believe that's what most women should yearn for. It took me a lot of time to get here. And sadly, sometimes they'll think you're kind of not sarcastic. Most people think you're cynical. It's not being cynical. I believe cynicism is a different ballgame entirely. It's just being, present enough. Remember, mental clarity is about being present. Being present enough to know that, see, when you cry finish, we'll get back to the issue. You will allow your brain to live your life for you, to lead your life. Trust me, when you start, it won't be easy. You'll be uncomfortable. You might have people tell you, it's like you're changing. You're changing. You're not the same person I used to know. It may even feel foreign to you to begin to use your intuition to do things. And because now your intuition is wired to your brain, it's not wired to your emotions. You will see that after you start, I'm telling you, even if you are disappointed, you're not going to look at your disappointments with emotions as most women will do. You will go back and think about it. Remember in one of the first episodes when I was telling us how to deal with certain that, you have a situation where somebody does something to you, and instead of just saying, "Oh, stupid woman, don't mind her, that's how she behaves," sometimes you put yourself in the person's shoes and say, "What could have been the with her? What could have been wrong with her?" And you begin to backtrack. You begin to try to empathize. And by intuition, when you have mental clarity, remember I said you don't things drive you. But trust me, it doesn't remove the fact that you lack empathy. You will not lack empathy, my sister. You will still have empathy. You'll be doing everything with empathy. But you see, that thing that they say somebody has your mumu button, it will not happen. Because you know why? You can separate emotions from your mind or your brain working. And the moment you begin to tap into this, beautiful, I call it beautiful and rare form of intuition, you know, you'll see that you'll become liberated and happier from the inside. Like I was discussing something with a very good friend this evening, and we're just talking about how, or she brought up this issue of how people will just skydive from a plane, how they'll just go to a mountain and do gliding, all kinds of things. And she said, she is because when they are doing that, they feel liberated. They are at that point where they're not necessarily in control, but they know that they're just away from all the angst that we live with. For that moment, they feel liberated. So you can imagine if you have to live life rather, feeling that way at every point in time, when you don't have any hang-ups. When I say you don't have any hang-ups, it doesn't mean you don't have issues. It doesn't mean you don't have challenges, but you don't have hang-ups. When you don't have hang-ups, you will not have time to partake in pity parties. I'm telling you, you do what the Bible says. You fall how many times? You get up again, you dust yourself off, and you're on the move. Because you know that every decision you end up making, you didn't take such decisions based on emotions. Can you imagine somebody going to jump from a plane and is being emotional about going to jump on a plane? He knows what he wants. He wants to have that rush of adrenaline rather for the few minutes it takes to get back to the ground. And because he knows it's a decision he has taken or he's taking or plans to take, it's well thought out. Nobody just goes to jump from a plane without having been taken through some kind of training. Yes, even if you just come to the place for the first time. I remember a friend of ours that did all this jumping from planes in Dubai, I think about a year ago or a year before. And she shared the videos of all the ground prep and all of that. So that's how you prep your mind. We're talking about mental clarity. That's how you boil your mind with all these techniques and tools that you have learned. So when you jump into anything, you feel liberated, right? And when you feel liberated, you know that for those few moments or few minutes or few hours that you're doing whatever it is you are doing it because you have thought out everything you have put in place to take that decision. You know that this is what your heart wanted to do. Like I say, you want to say no to somebody. You're not just saying no to somebody for the heck of it. You have weighed the pros and cons, and you're able to say no. You'll be so intuitive that when somebody comes to you, even if they are coming to you to do one wayo thing or the other, you catch on because everything about you is working in tandem, and you can know when somebody is up to no. So the question I'll ask: are you ready to be intuitive? Honestly, nobody that will say no. But the thing is this: are you ready to pay the price? And the price you have to pay are those things we spoke about, I think in episode 4, when we handled brain dump. Are you ready to see yourself in all your glory, good, bad, and ugly? The truth is, so many of us are not ready. We're not ready. We want these things, but we're not ready to put in the work. We're not ready to look at the woman in the mirror and say, look, girl, you've missed it here. This is not how it is. We only want accolades. We only want validation. But sometimes you need to know you need to hear the truth about yourself. I know when I took the ladies on the woman called you, I think it was sometime end of August. We did this exercise where it's, I mean, anybody who was looking in from the outside would say, ah, probably this woman is harsh or something. But you see, probably because I've gone through that kind of exercise before when I was in treatment. And that's why most of the things I do, most of my approach I do have that element of, you know, the carrot and stick method where, I mean, I'm not going to moducoddle you, but I'm not going to, um, I mean, I'm not going to do anything that debases you. But you see, if everybody around you has mollycoddled you for so long, I mean, I see it as tough love, not necessarily. In, I don't even know the word to use, but it's tough love because one of the reasons why we seem to have women who are not operating at optimum capacity is because most of us have been given a free pass. Just leave her. That's how she is. Leave her. That's just how she is. Today I was listening to a teaching. It was talking about the wine press. For the wine to come out as beautiful as and as tasty with this, when we savour it, it's like, oh my goodness, the grapes, whatever is being used for it, has to be crushed. Have you seen an olive press? I remember when we went to Jerusalem then, I think I went sometime in 2010. I mean, the stone is enough to scare you. It has to go through that pressure. And to be honest with you, very few people in your life. I'm not saying do wicked things. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the kind of pressure that involves taking a good look at yourself. Sorry, I need to put this thing on. Do not disturb. I'm getting all this thing coming in. Sorry. I need to put it on do not disturb. So, like I was saying, have you like really, really seen what a wine press or an olive press looks like? Before all that wonderful, you know, high premium olive oil comes out, it needs to go through the press. And by the time it's, the oil is premium quality and everything, most people don't understand the pressure it has gone through to get to where it is. And that's how, when you decide to walk the walk of attaining mental clarity, by the time you begin to exhibit, I mean, uncanny levels of intuitiveness. Yes, intuitiveness. People will be surprised, people will be shocked, and you'll be the better for it. And the next thing, I'll still have to talk about what my friend talked about this afternoon. You know, one thing you will experience when you choose to embrace mental clarity in totality is this feeling of a complete sense of freedom. Remember, I said when you are not mentally alert, when you are lacking in mental clarity, one of the things that happens, because your mind is so cluttered, you know, you would have this kind of thing. Like I said, when they're praying and they're binding every spirit of buying and selling, that's how you'll be. You're here present. It's not about being absent minded. Absent minded is another level, of lack of mental alertness. It's just you're not being able to plug into what is happening around you. You might think you are here, but you're not able to really make sense of whatever is happening, you know. And like I said in one of the earlier teachings, it can be as a result of a number of things. Some people, they have some kind of sets of belief that their mindset is fixed, is closed. No matter what you try to get them to know, because they have believed a certain thing. It can be emotional baggage from the past. It can just be, some people who really, really sadly do not have a teachable spirit. You know, it can be people who are set in their ways without necessarily having gone through something in the past and all that. And because of this series of experiences and all of that, you will see that such a person, it will not be easy for her to let go, to declutter. even when she does, if she doesn't relearn and reconstruct her mind with all of the good things and even more that we have discussed earlier on, something happens. After some time, she will fall back to her destructive patterns, and that is the truth, you know. And for you to have that complete sense of freedom, I said it sometime yesterday. Remember what the Bible says about when demons are cast out? That when demons are cast out, there is an empty ground. Though. If you don't fill it with something, edifying, something that is good, something that is of God, the demon now goes, calls his friends, they come back and they'll have a house party in your mind. Same thing. If you want to truly experience a complete sense of freedom, when you have managed to exercise yourself of all those things, remember you will have done your brain dump. Remember, I spoke about the importance of spiritual self care, spiritual maintenance is important as well. You have your quiet time in the closet, you know so many things. You're also learning new skills about this thing you want to go into. Everything, understanding, breaking out from being, somebody will say sometimes I sound like a feminist, but far from it. I've said it over and over again. One of the things you need mental clarity on is to redefine your relationships, even with your spouses. Because so many of us women, one of the reasons why we are mentally weak is because we have given our power, our mental power, to someone else. So you see, one of the ways you would have a complete sense of freedom, you're not going to revolt, but by the time you identify your reason for being, if I'm talking about reason for being, is in one of the episodes, you know, you will see that you will start you will start flourishing. You would actually earn the respect of your spouse. You will not seem to be a clinging ivy. You know, it will be okay for you guys to have different interests, but there's always, synergy. Because when you say you're going to have a complete sense of freedom, it will also help you with developing synergy. And I tell you, when you have this complete sense of freedom and joy, remember I said it's not happiness, it's joy. Joy when you are content because you know everything. You are responsible. You're responsible for your thoughts, your mind, and all of that. If it gets too heavy for you, remember I told you who is in your circle, you have people you can talk to. If you have you spiritual self-care is high on the agenda for you, you know, you would have people you pray with, you have people that can counsel, you know, you and all of that. Because that is what happens. You see somebody who was such a free spirit, and you now get into a marriage, and you because you have been taught that, oh, when you go into a marriage, you don't talk, you don't do this, you don't do that. And that's when you find you will now put your light under a bushel. Even the word of God, if you're into spiritual self-care, says, have you seen somebody that lights a candle and puts it under a bushel? Because when you are somebody who has a liberating personality, and because you believe the only way you can feel validated by the people around you is to curb your personality, then you are giving away your freedom. You are now in chains. Every time I tell you, before you know it, you now start having manifestations of those things that are the issue. You start getting angry. You start getting, your attention span becomes shorter. You can lose sleep. Because one thing we don't understand, so many of us, we try to light the importance of mental clarity and alertness. Even normally, when you don't even sleep for some time, you see what happens. It's like, remember I said I wasn't going to dwell on brain fog, because sometimes brain fog actually has, some this thing of mental illness, But even normally, even if you don't think you have any kind of mental illness, that feeling where it's as if there's cotton wool in your head. It happens to so many of us when we're stressed out. If you don't stop, if you don't just grab yourself and say, hey girl, what's this? You are going further into mental bondage. So please, I'm saying to a woman, Stop trying to be right. Stop trying to be politically correct. I mean, when you begin to learn to let go of things, hold things loosely, I tell you, you will feel the mental weight will begin to ease off. Will begin to ease off. And you begin to experience a complete sense of freedom and joy. Something happened, I think, sometime earlier this week, where somebody did something and people were shouting, "Oh, this person is a servant of God. Why would the person do this? Why would the person do that?" And I reacted differently because when I said, and I was plain about it, I said, "But for God, that is me. Oh. That is not making light of whatever the person has done or absolving them." But then again, I said it's because most of us, we have come to expect too much from people. One way you will get, your mental space will be decluttered, where you will gain a complete sense of freedom. Don't expect too much from people. You know who you should expect too much from? Expect much from yourself. Most times when you start doing the much, it's not till the Bible says the unbelieving husband is won over by the unbelieving wife. When you begin to expect much from your own self and you begin to do what is right for your own self, not expecting everybody to do what is right, you will see something begins to happen. They begin to come. They begin to come. Because you know why? When you have that complete sense of freedom as a woman, when you have the best level of mental clarity that you can have for yourself, that you have worked hard for, it's like you are giving out a form. In fact, your charisma, everything around you radiates. And you start hearing people say there's something about that woman. Because everything just washes off your back. Like I've been saying over and over and over again for the past couple of weeks, by God's special grace, in the next 19 days or so, I'm turning 52. And somebody was saying, I said, because look, life, one of the things that will give us a complete sense of freedom as women, as you're attaining mental clarity, every woman, stop this irrational fear of death, irrational fear of illness, irrational fear of sickness. Once you can just stop it, you'll see you'll be liberated mentally. I know why you can stop it. You go back to listen to spiritual self-care. I told us, I said, one of the things about the 12th step is like in the last couple of years, I just forgot everything about what, I had learned. That's why in the past 1 year, it's like unlearning to relearn. When you think back of the things you've gone through, times you've been sick, things that have happened and everything, you realize that it's not because you took the best medicine, it's not because you did this, did that. It's just God. So if you just feel that way, it's another way of getting a complete sense of freedom. And it's liberating. Even the word of God tells us the joy of the Lord is our strength. So today, if you want a complete sense of freedom, that's one of the things you need to practice, letting go. Then the final one for today, this one. I won't lie to you. I was actually a candidate of this, You are a victim of the rules you live by. And that's true. It's just like you say, I must wake up by 4 a.m. to do something. I must wake up by 4 a.m. to do something. There are some things you don't have any control over. Yes, your alarm may wake you up, your this may do that. But I see your body, your this, okay, yeah. If it's probably you want to wake up at 4 a.m. to read, and you set your alarm, you do it the first day, you read, you get excited and everything. There are sometimes when we even choose to do things, there's a law of diminishing return. And the thing about this thing is, if the next one of those days you can't wake up by 4 and you see yourself waking up by 5, what do you do? That's one way of knowing whether you understand what mental clarity is. Some people will beat up themselves. Oh my God, why did I? this, that. And you ask yourself, okay, when you wake up to read at 4 or whatever it is you wake up to do, it's all part of your development, Abby. It's part of the things you've laid out, outlined that these are the things I need to do. But guess what? If you allow your mind to be confined by the things that you have laid out, and that's why I always bring in the component of spiritual self care for mind clarity. Have you wondered sometimes whether the God, Holy Spirit, just wanted you to rest, that your body didn't rest? Notice I said to have mental clarity, you're not second guessing yourself, but always give room, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. You didn't wake up at 4 a.m., you woke up at 6 a.m. Thank God, because there's some people who would have wanted to wake up at 4 a.m., they didn't even wake up that day. So you would thank God for the 6 a.m. that you woke up. Then if you know it's 4 a.m., you really need to wake up. You might sit down and say, okay, let me reassess how my day is. Okay, maybe I don't take naps. You begin to take naps. You see, there are things you can do. You begin to take naps. You begin to sleep earlier so you can wake up at 4. If you cannot do anything, then don't talk about that thing, because then it's a waste of mental space. So truly, when you're a victim of the rules you live by, then you're not ready to take that jump. Like I said, I've begun, I think since December, to live my life with pen and paper. If there's no pen and paper, I showed you the other day, I was showing you people it was funny, notes on my Samsung phone. I've gone back to the way I was a couple of years ago. I've gone back to making notes, doing post-its. You know why? These post-its, if you see it, I have 3M post-its. They're always around me. I'm sticking notes because there's just enough that my brain can take. Sometimes when my husband is speaking to me, I've not gotten to this one. I don't know how it jumped out on the screen. When my husband is speaking to me, sometimes he just gets, because I'll say, just hang on, let me just take a note. Hang on, let me note this down. And you say, you're bringing this here. So I said, that's the way it is for me. Just, honey, just hang on, let me take notes. Because all those things he's saying, I can't put it in my head. Abba. So that's one of the ways I now have complete sense of freedom. Sorry, not living by the rules. Well, sorry, let me see. Okay. So that is it. I now have a complete sense of freedom. I'm no longer a victim to the rules I make. So finally, for the knife, yes, this is the one that we're going to wrap up on. What happens to you? You begin to achieve great things. You begin to achieve great things. You know, one thing that will happen is when you begin to gain clarity. Remember, I said in the beginning that the fact that you have gained mental clarity doesn't mean that life will not happen. It doesn't mean that you will not meet challenges. But you see how you achieve great things. Let me take the kind of great things you're going to achieve. I'm not saying you're going to win an award. I'm not going to say, oh, you're going to make this amount of money. Remember, I said I'm talking about mental things. One of the great achievements you would have is that you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror. Remember yesterday, one of the few things we said, and the day before, confronting yourself, those questions I said you ask yourself. The kind of great things you begin to achieve is that, my dearest, you can stand up and walk away from a toxic environment and not look back. You know why? Because, let me show us, because you do what? You appreciate the complete sense of freedom that you now have. Trust me, when I'm talking about complete sense of freedom, I'm not saying you're becoming recalcitrant. I'm not saying you are becoming proud or cocky. Remember, that's not what gaining mental clarity is all about. When I'm even talking about you become strong, it's strength. It's not being tough. Some people are tough, but they lack mental strength. So let me go back to they achieve great things. So I'll let somebody understand what it means fully. So you'll be able to walk away, like I said, from toxic environments. You'll be able to choose people you will spend your time with. See, take pen and paper. Do this exercise. Somebody said, all I talk about is pen and paper, and it's the truth. Put down your 24 hours in the day. Remember in one of the episodes, I told people how, even after coming out of treatment in 2008, for 2 years, between 2008, in fact, it was when I turned 40 in 2010 that I just actually sought for clearance. And like I said, please, can I begin to live my life in steps without having to resort to writing every bit down? I had a register. Anytime I used to go for assessments, the they'll be checking. I mean, from the time I wake up at 5:30, I used to list down everything I used to do. My husband used to look at me like, even after I had Uchenna, that's bonus, I was still doing it. Because, after having gone through something where I lost total control of myself, I needed to start building my mental capacity again and to take control of my life. So, what you would do, like I said, take pen and paper. You can choose to do it over the weekend because the weekend you are freer. Just have as like a journal. Even if when you woke up at 5 to pray, write it. 5 a.m. I prayed. Whatever, journal your day. If you can do your day, if you can journal your day for 2 days consecutively, after when you lay down on your bed, begin to look at what you've spent your time on. I'm telling you, if you can, I'm telling you, when I'm talking about achieving great things, you begin to see that every time is accounted for. I mean, you would go visiting somebody and you've already said visiting my friend from 5 to 6:30. Once it's 6:30, you will stand up. My sister, if you begin to manage your time well, is that not a great thing you have achieved? When we talk about achieving great things, we think it's to hit that business. If you are able to manage these little things, your mind is so clear as to manage your time. Like when I tell people, they laugh. I always ensure that I start dinner at a particular time. This is not what I'm not saying it's what everybody should do, but I'm just giving you like an example of what I've said. Because before there was a time in my marriage that I guess my husband used to eat maybe like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. It was that bad. Because I would do when I go, come back, then I think part of that time I was still walking, kind of, but I would this, that, and I would rush, I would stumble. But when I now made up my mind that you see, cooking dinner was an important achievement for me. I know it's crazy. Somebody might laugh. That cooking dinner. Yes, Treasure, you're right. Walk away from a toxic environment. It's a great achievement, I'm telling you. You know why? Because most women that lack mental clarity, you will see most of the time, check the pattern of the kind of relationships they get into. If probably they have then a relationship with a narcissist who deals with them, and when they leave, they say, "Oh, men has come and they leave and are free," because they've not dealt with whatever issues were in them to make them appealing to a narcissist, and for them to be able to take what a narcissist was dishing out to them, the next person they're likely to end up with is a narcissist. If you are in a group where every time you are like the whipping boy, you are always the one they blame. They always want you now leave and say, I'm not going to do it again. You now go somewhere else. You're always the one they blame. You're always the one to blame. I don't know if you've ever heard of that story where they say a tortoise said he had to go, he had to live here. He didn't know that the problem was him. I mean, his house. It was always carrying his house, going with him. So you see, till you get rid of those things that to an extent have something to do with you. That's why you see people they say, oh, serial abusers, serial this. What does serial mean? Serial just probably means repetitive. It's always happening, it's always happening. So if you can gain mental clarity, one of the great things you will achieve is that you'll know the kind of things you should accept. I'm telling you, one of the things you will achieve is that you will just throw the fear of failing. Like some women, one of the things I said when we're talking about uh, mentally weak women, they don't like being alone with themselves. That's why you see a woman, she always wants to be in a relationship. Once the relationship finishes, immediately anybody that comes, she jumps to that person. You know why? She's afraid of her own company. And that's why I said one of the things we do here is we do here is learn to love yourself, grow personally before you can inspire anybody. You're a woman, you want to see the best out of your partner or something, grow. We think it's about changing our hair, looking beautiful, slaying. That's not mental clarity. Like I always laugh at people. When you do all of this, is at the end of the night, like when I finish this thing now, I will come out this thing from my head now. The beauty that will still be in me is how I can handle and engage in a conversation when all the chips are down, when all of these things are off. What's your mental strength? So you see, these are the things you will achieve. These are the things you will achieve. I don't want to go on and on because time is fast spent, but I just pray somebody go back, and it's easier if you go to the Woman Called You group, because there, if you have to do it, check for the past ones of my news feed. Yeah, there are more things. My news feed is general, but for the Woman Called You group, it's only, that we don't post anything. Like now, it's this thing that is being done. It's only this thing you will see on the news feed. So you can go there, and a good thing, all the titles are there. So you're not under any pressure. Anyone you are led to just watch and glean whatever it is you need to glean from it, by all means do that. You know, by all means do that. Because if you don't, treasure, I just encourage you. Maybe you would, if you are on the Woman Called You group or whatever, just go there. Look for the episodes on mental strength. Look for the episode on mental strength. Look for the episode that says, I try to remember now, how do I know I am mentally strong? Look for the episode that also says when to know that you're mentally weak. Because like I said earlier, as I was starting, since I'm live, so I'm just trying to just say some things, you know, because most times, most women that think they are mentally strong, they're just tough women, you know. Most women that think they are confident, they're not confident. What they are is cocky, you know. Most women that think they're self-assured, they're not self-assured. All they are is just self-indulgent. So, it, those things, they just the whole thing, it's a whole package of understanding who you are. So, like I said, we'll round up. We'll stop here for the night. We'll continue tomorrow. We have just 3 more days before our 31 days are up. And my prayer, like I said, in 31 days, there's no way you can gain mental clarity in 31 days, except probably by a miracle. Oh, the Holy Spirit breathes upon you, and that will be exceptional. But one thing I want us to know, that you see, character, mental capacity. I'm not talking about mental health, though, because it's God that gives you this, it makes your brain okay and all of that. Character, mental capacity in terms of your mental strength, um, clarity of mind, and all of that. These are things you need to build. Nobody will come and wave this thing for you. But guess what? It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter how things have been. One thing I know is that all it takes is that one decision that you will take and say, look, because some people used to be mentally strong, but situations like I was discussing today with my friend, you know, the past, so many things just change you. But guess what? Sometimes that wonderful person you once were, who was changed by situations, is most likely God's original plan for you. So there's nothing wrong in going back to that person. This woman's talking here knows what she's saying. I mean, I got so high up. People that watch on Facebook, they know who I am, to the glory of God. But everything came crashing. But one day at a time. And for me, spiritual self-care. I'm talking about spiritual self-care. There's so many things that make up spiritual self-care. But for me, that knowledge of understanding, like I said, they'll tell you in 12 steps that there is a power higher than myself. And I need to hand it over to that power. And for me, it's Jehovah. So it was an important component for me. I'm not talking about Christianism. I'm not talking about playing church. Because when we're in this thing, everybody, it doesn't matter what your denomination was, everybody was going to just one chapel for the long months that I was in treatment. So today I just want to tell a woman, you can do anything. You just first have to take that decision. Decide that you want to take responsibility. Then, like I always mention how this wonderful woman, Apostle Ingo Organ, Mommy Organ, taught me some 14 odd years ago when she told me, reminded me of the philosopher. I'd always heard about him, but you know how when things happen in your life, you just throw so many things out of the window. And she said, John Locke, the philosopher, says, or said rather, that you can teach anybody anything at whatever age, as long as it's taught in steps. So to that woman who is watching me today, guess what? Little drops of water make a mighty ocean. A journey of, even if it is 10,000 kilometers, all it takes is just that one step. So today I just urge you, just take that step in faith and decide that you want to achieve great things. Yes, the money will come, all those things will come, but you want to achieve great things. But first, you need to attain mental clarity. And at the end of the day, you'll be happier for it. So till tomorrow, good night and God bless you.